15 years. So it's very difficult at times to connect with the principles of industrial hygiene, the workers you are trying to address, for them to appreciate what you're talking about. The leadership or the management team is also a struggle because they cannot see what you're talking about. So it's very important that as health and safety professionals, we continue to become more creative, educate ourselves, support ourselves, and do this work in such a way that in the years to come, people can hear their children, they can have good lungs to breathe even in retirement. So just to put context into what we are discussing, we need more partnership. We need everyone on board, safety professionals to support on this journey. So what are we going to learn today? Again, this is not an attempt to teach industrial hygiene in 45 minutes. Please confirm, how many minutes do I have?
45 minutes.
Yeah, so it's not an attempt to take industrial hygiene in 45 minutes, but basically to just raise awareness a bit and hopefully maybe spark some interest as well. Maybe things we're not seeing at the various sites that you support, you would begin to see. In many occasions, I work with safety professionals and they walk past a work site. The focus is on hard hat, is on lockout, tag out, and everything looks good. They go ahead and pass, and I come just right immediately after, and I see a whole lot of health issues. But a safety professional just passed here, so it's very important to be able to see those little things as well. So we're going to do a little bit on qualitative exposure assessment, and this is just like what I just described: walking past a work site and being able to identify potential health issues, understand what's wrong, and be able to put some bit of mitigation. Exposure control tools, we'll talk about that as well, ventilation, PPE, anything that has to do with control of health risk. And again, health risk matrix is something that is not fully adopted by most organizations. I just thought to share it here. The safety metrics is very common, and managers, engineers, they understand the safety metrics. So it's very important to be able to inject health risk matrix in conversation when you're discussing health issues so that people can quantify the risk, they can apportion the right level of this word seriousness now, or the right level of attention to those hazards. So today, I'm going to share a video very quickly. I hope it plays very well. We're going to talk about industrial hygiene, occupational health, basic toxicology, exposure assessment. We're going to talk about measurement of hazardous substances, just to show some pictorial views of what IH equipment looks like, health risk metrics, medical surveillance, exposure control methods. I recognize the fact that I have some experienced IH colleagues here. I can see Gloria, I can see, I think Martin, I can see maybe some other people. This is going to be very basic stuff for some people, and this is going to be something new to some other people. So I'll encourage us, let's use the chat room. The IH guys on the call, you're my backup. If there's any comments or questions in the chat room, please feel free to respond. So let's engage, and as I go through, I know there will be Q&A session, but you can throw in your questions in the chat room. Okay? So I'm going to attempt to play this video. Okay. Please confirm you are still seeing my screen.
Yes.
Health. In other words, we're simply.
So I want to guess that you're not able to hear the sound, right?
Yes, we can hear it.
No, the sound is clear.
Oh, you can hear the sound?
Yes.
Yes.
From the video, not my voice.
No, yes, from the
Yes, from the video, yes.
Beautiful. I usually struggle with that. So let's confirm again. Sound is good?
Yes, it is.
Good.
Doing the right thing. That is what we do. We care for our families and we care for our friends because it is the right thing to do. We care for each other in our cities, in our villages, at school and at home, and we care for each other at work because, well, it is the right thing to do. We care for each other at work by protecting each other's health, protecting each other from the hazards, the dangers at work. Chemical hazards, such as harmful liquids and gases, biological hazards, such as bacteria and viruses, and physical hazards, such as too much noise and heat. We also protect each other from the hazards of repeated movements, such as sewing, assembling parts, and typing, where we make the same movement again and again. And we protect each other from the mental and emotional stress at work that can cause illnesses and injuries. And the reason we protect each other from all these hazards is simple. Because at the end of the day, all of us want to go home in good health, to care for ourselves, our families, and our friends. It is the right thing to do. Now at work, the name for all this protection is industrial hygiene, which is also called occupational hygiene, but it all means the same thing. Both industrial and occupational mean work, and hygiene means protecting health. In other words, we're simply talking about protecting people's health at work. When we do this, we plan ahead.
I think the sound is off
Close
now.
the audio.
You can't, okay. You can't hear the sound again now.
Operations, such as construction sites or industrial painting sites,
Oh, I think
Now
it's back.
but
at small and medium operations, and with one person working alone.
See, the purple is just full.
But regardless of the size and type of work, the people who are key to all of this are the industrial hygienists. They are the champions that protect workers. They are the eyes and ears of the workplace, the ones who help find health hazards and correct them.
Bye, finish now. You now
So,
have this.
how do they do it? First,
Prince of
they
Lagos.
start with expert scientific knowledge in chemistry, biology, and physics, and mathematics, and toxicology or poisons, and epidemiology or diseases, and, well, you get the idea. Then they focus all that scientific training at strong ethical standards, also known as doing the right thing, and bring all these skills to the workplace. In the end, industrial hygienists are about people, listening to people, talking with people, working with people, protecting people from workplace hazards. Together, workers and industrial hygienists form a team where everyone plays an equal part, where industrial hygienists bring their technical knowledge to the workplace, and where workers bring their personal knowledge and expertise about their work, their values, and their relationships. And this team shares one purpose, something that we all value, that everyone understands how to protect themselves and each other at work so that everyone goes home in good health at the end of each day. Now at work, there are a lot of things going on. Workers, managers and supervisors, budgets and costs, equipment and materials, production. And industrial hygiene works with all of these. First, industrial hygiene connects workers' physical safety with environmental health. This protects not only workers, but also everyone in the surrounding community. Industrial hygiene unites workers and managers so that everyone comes together to protect each other. Industrial hygiene also links healthy workers with a healthy business, where healthy workers create a healthier and stronger business with fewer illnesses, fewer injuries, and fewer costs, all creating greater health and greater productivity for everyone. But most importantly, industrial hygiene connects work and home. Because when everyone's health is protected at work, those same workers can care for and protect their families and friends when they return home. It is the right thing to do.
Do you have my screen back? Hello?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes.
You have the slides back.
Yes.
Fantastic. All right. So if you, I mean, that video was just a summary of all I'm going to talk about today. It's probably the best video I've seen trying to put industrial hygiene into context. And that's courtesy of the American Industrial Hygiene Association, basically telling us about exactly what industrial hygiene is, who they are, how they do their work, and the overall effect is keeping people safe, reuniting them with their family. I hope you found that video very interesting. So a little bit more about industrial hygiene today. Um, I know a lot of us are probably seeing these statistics, and it's not far. It's recent. It's 2017 statistics, and it says about 2.4 million people die annually as a result of going to work, right? So because they go to work, they have people die, right? If you look at the 380,000, this is just an attempt to raise awareness for health, right? There are about 380 or about 400,000 people die from work-related accidents. I don't know. This is from the International Labour Organization. I still looked this up yesterday. It's still what they have. 4% of GDP being lost annually because of occupational diseases. And this doesn't look good. A lot of money as well, 160 million non-fatal diseases. So this doesn't look good. And I keep asking myself, is this trend, is it really going down or we are on the rise? And why are people still getting sick? Why are people still getting hurt? We have safety professionals, we have industrial hygienists, we have work processes, we have tools. And I was part of a webinar recently. It was by the UK folks, and somebody asked, why are people still getting deaf with all the controls, with all the tools? So there's something that we need to do probably more in this space, especially in health, so that people can understand the impact, become more passionate about it. Everyone, if that video says everybody works together, both the workers, the management team, the health and safety professionals, and having a healthy or safe space, it means good business as well. So if you look at the statistics on noise, this is also by the World Health Organization. A lot of people are losing their hearing as well. A good percentage could be from exposure at work. If we look at that number, 1.5 billion, I just looked the number up just to confirm how many people in the world right now. It's about 8 billion. So what this means is about 25% of the world population is going deaf. Maybe some of us on this call, including myself, has lost a bit of our hearing. So this is just like a call to action to make us look in the right direction, to get up more passionate about protecting people, seeing things and speaking up and making sure that we pay a little bit more attention to health in the various organizations that we support. This slide, I like it so much, and I hope you guys can follow me and understand what is on this slide. The health risk management program. This is basically a template for managing health in your workspace. I'm sure that some of us can identify some of the things here that we do. Maybe the ones we don't do, it's something to take away to say, hey, in my organization, we can actually do this more. I tell people everybody that comes to work is a vulnerable individual. Basically, you come to a space that is not your sitting room. You've come to a place that is not your bedroom, and there are some hazards in that space. Because the hazards are there, then you become very vulnerable to what the hazard presents. So if you look at the down arrows are like the positive things that you need to do to prevent the negative things, which are the arrows pointing down, which is red, or is that orange or pink in color. So that's like the consequence. So we should be doing things that are pointing upward. And if you're not doing such in your organization, maybe something to take away. So in the management of health risk, it's also very important to state that the time frame for diseases to manifest could be as much as 40 years. So every little thing you do today to stop that exposure from becoming a health effect in the in the years to come, it's very, very important. Why I'm saying that is the effect of what you're doing may not even be tangible, which most times it isn't. But in the long run, you're preventing something negative from happening in years to come. So we should be doing identification of exposures, understanding our workplace to know whether there's noise here, there's a kind of chemical here, and we should try as much as possible to follow hierarchy of control, eliminate the hazard, substitutes, use PPE, put in some administrative controls. When you're doing all that, it's very important to do some bit of surveillance as well to make sure surveillance basically helps you to confirm that your controls are working. So if you're saying people should wear hearing protection and you balance that with audiometric testing to be sure that, okay, we're wearing hearing protection here, we are doing some acoustic controls to our high noise equipment, people really getting deaf. So it's very important to layer medical surveillance on top of whatever controls we put in place. It's very important to continue to keep your employer engaged, notification of what group of people are exposed. And I know a lot of organizations will have clinics to help in treatment of early signs of any disease. It's very important. And of course, we don't want it to get to an extent where you will have disabilities or death. But what I say to anybody looking at this slide is every individual that comes into an organization should stay in the first box. It should remain a vulnerable individual with no negative impact on his or her health. So we don't want progression onto the right side of the arrow. So our work as health and safety professionals is to keep people in that box throughout the duration of their career and even after they've left the organizations that we support. I'm talking to safety professionals today, but because I want us to look beyond, I've kept people from injuries, I've kept people from maybe death on a particular day, but we should be able to say as well that I've also kept people from exposure to occupational or health hazards. Okay. Very quickly about industrial hygiene. These 5 boxes that you see is what describes industrial hygiene. We talk about anticipation, recognition, evaluation, control, and validation. So basically, when an industrial hygienist comes into a space, he's already thinking about the kind of hazards that could be in that space, even without knowing the names or being able to put a name to it. And that's called the anticipation phase. By the time you begin to name the hazards, okay, this is benzene, these are the physical or chemical properties, these are the effect of temperature or the effect of pressure on this kind of substance, you are beginning to recognize it and define the hazard appropriately. So evaluation talks about quantifying the hazard, who is exposed, how big is the exposure, is there a danger? By the time you start getting to those kind of conversation, you are doing some bit of evaluation. Then of course, how can we keep people from exposure to these hazards? How can we make sure that people are protected? And you begin to say, okay, wear hearing protection, wear your respirator, then you're defining controls. Then validation of controls talks about when you put in controls, you want to check whether the controls are effectively working. Validation could mean some bit of exposure monitoring as well to check whether the levels of the exposure that was detected, it is reduced. Okay. Just a check. I'm still being very clear and audible.
Yes, please.
Yes, very audible.
Thank you, because everybody is silent. All right. So that was about industrial hygiene. And again, why I'm trying to be to explain industrial hygiene and what it is I know a lot of safety professionals work with industrial hygienists. So, and maybe there are no time to really sit down and talk about what the industrial hygienist is doing. And some safety professionals are not just interested. So I'm trying to bring up this awareness so that when the next time your industrial hygienist in the organization you work with begin to speak, you can connect and give the right support or have the right level of engagement. That's why I'm delving a bit into some bit of terminology that you're seeing on the screen. So when we talk about exposure assessment, comprehensive exposure assessment, I'm sure a lot of safety professionals here, you've done a bit of risk assessment in the past. So this is just in the form of risk assessment, but just the focus is on health hazards. When you do a risk assessment, you need to identify the hazards, where are the energized system, where are the opportunities for slip and fall, where are the opportunities for working at height or fall from height. Same thing here. You have to understand what are the health hazards in this workplace. And in understanding health hazard, you need to be able to define or find standards that will tell you whether exposure is high or low. And that's what we describe as occupational exposure limits. There are various agencies that will put out there what exposure limits are applicable for the various jurisdiction of various countries. It's also important to understand substances that could get into your body through the skin. Once you are able to conceptualize or list your health hazards into place, the next step is to be able to do an assessment. So down this house looking structure, you have exposure assessment after hazard assessment. And again, the exposure assessment could be just qualitative or quantitative. Qualitative, you're asking questions, you're asking operators, you're asking people that use substances, how do they use it, when are they using it, how much, what's the quantity, what's the state of the substance, is it liquid, is it a gas, and that helps you to understand the potential for exposure regarding that substance. And again, it's very important to classify to classify workers into groups, because the exposure of an electrical technician or exposure of a mechanical technician or an exposure of somebody in the office is different from a field operator. So it's very important to box them into group, understand their work pattern. Do they work for 12 hours? Do they work for 8 hours? And you're able to use those information to come to a conclusion as regards the risk. And that comes to the next one, which is the risk characterization. Gather information about the agent, about the exposure, then you're able to say this risk is low, it is high, or it's medium, or whatever terminologies that you guys use in your organization, whether it's high risk, risk category 1 or category 2. You're able to do that based on the fact that you've identified the hazards in question, you've assessed the hazards, and you've characterized them. So this also follows the chain that I talked about in the first slide, anticipation, recognition, evaluation, and control. So basically, every industrial hygienist in the world use something very similar to this to come out with whatever recommendation, whatever risk characterization in the health space for the organization. Industrial hygienists, we do a lot of sampling, and it's very important to do sampling so that you understand exposure better, you're able to quantify it and speak beyond just I think, but you can show with data to say, hey, I measured this exposure while these guys were doing this activity and they were exposed to this level. And this level is certain percentage of the occupational exposure limit. OEL means occupational exposure limit. And this framework is from AIHA, and basically it's important, like I said earlier, to characterize your group, form them into who does what chemicals they use, and you're able to do some exposure assessment and come up with an outcome that either says the risk is controlled, it is uncontrolled or unacceptable, or maybe at times you look at something, it looks like this is not clear. Maybe somebody is transferring a product, maybe gasoline, from one drum to the other, and is using a hand pump. It's not completely sealed, so there's a loose hole going into the drum. So there's some openings, and it's using hand pump, right? You're not sure whether this is above the OEL. If you do measurements, then you go back there, you can do some bits of actual measurement. So quantitative exposure assessment, it's one that involves you deploying equipment to measure a particular substance of interest. So depending on the outcome of your risk characterization, it determines what kind of monitoring you should do. Definitely, it is recommended that if you think that exposure is beyond 100% of the OEL, that is, it's at the OEL or more, you should be doing some bit of sampling to understand exposure better. So very quickly, I think I'll move faster now. I know I'm running out of time. Some IH concepts. Even if we don't finish, we can continue this conversation after now, okay? So the hazards in the health space is classified into three, then maybe plus two more. But the key big ones, the physical, chemical, and biological hazard, that's a list of what they contain. And I like to say to people, when you talk about health hazard, it's very important to differentiate it from physical hazard. We're not talking about slip and fall. We're not talking about drop objects. We're not talking about electrocution. This is hazard that can get into your body through three principal means, which you're going to see in the next slide. We have economic hazard as well. Psychosocial hazard is also something big. That's talking about bullying, harassment at work, and other social things that could happen in the workspace. Exposure could also be characterized into big two. It could be acute or chronic in nature, meaning acute, you can see the effect immediately. Chronic exposure, repeated exposure over time, and before you see the effect. It's very important to understand that there are limits or there are standards. So the exposure limits, like I mentioned earlier, defined in literature, defined by some agencies, OSHA, ACGIH. Nigeria, we don't have our specific exposure limits, but we look to the UK, HSC, we look to OSHA as well in coming up with some numbers where we use to protect our people. So the exposure limits are developed based on certain health effects. So the last column that says TLV basis or exposure limit basis, it's basically what it's saying is if a normal human being, healthy human being, is exposed to, let's use benzene as an example, 0.25 ppm of benzene every day, all through his work period, so far it is less than 0.25, it should not develop leukemia. And that's the concept of the exposure limit. If you are able to keep exposure below certain level, then the associated health effect shouldn't result or be developed. So when you look at, if you Google, you can see some of these exposure limits. And just to put into context that you can always refer to ask yourself what is high, what is low. These are the primary routes of entry, talking about inhalation, ingestion, and skin. Those methods or those means, these are how substances get into your body. And when this is very important because when you're doing exposure monitoring, when you're deploying controls, you need to understand how the substance that is in question, how it gets to the body, and you want to block that route. There's a question I normally ask people. I say, which is the most important or which is the primary means of substances getting into your body? And in fact, a lot of the exposure limits are based on this route. And I would say to people, it's inhalation, right? Because your nose is always open. It's always open. You're always breathing, so it's always open. And so there's the likelihood that something would get in if it's hazardous and is in your breathing zone. So exposure assessment versus exposure monitoring, this is just to aid conversation with our industrial hygienist if you have one working with you. So when your industrial hygienist says he's going to do exposure monitoring is a component of exposure assessment. Exposure assessment is a big umbrella of doing everything, and exposure monitoring is just a component to support your exposure evaluation or your exposure assessment to help you come to the right conclusions or decision as regards your risk. So, how many people do we have on the call? Okay, good number. I'm going to pause for maybe just 1 minute, and I want us to engage on the chat. Let's do a bit of exposure assessment. Now you're a safety professional, you are an industrial hygienist. This picture on this slide, I want you to chat in the chat room, what do you think these guys are doing? And just make a random list of the health hazard associated with this job. So what are the, you guys can see my screen, right?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay.
But if it will be larger, we'll appreciate.
How do I make it larger? But what do you think they're doing? Just chat. I want to see what people think and just make some random list of health hazards. Remember, I'm shouting health. I don't want people to list for me. Yes, I've seen welding, which is good. Right. So exposure to fumes. Okay, thank you. Keep going. We're going to do this for 1 minute. Yes, when there's welding, there's a bit of grinding as well. Somebody is specifying the welding. Excellent. TIG welding. Somebody says investigation of oil pipe. Okay, health hazard. The positioning. Exposure to noise. Inhalation. Welding operation hazard inhalation. Heat. Excellent. Good. Yes. Dust. Yes, it's a confined space. Confined space. And somebody says aeration is an issue. So the ventilation, I can't see any ventilation in that space as well. So good. I like it. It's a good dump, but I think the purpose of this exercise is to bring to our consciousness the awareness that there are health hazards associated with work. And as a safety professional, you shouldn't pass by this kind of work site and you're just looking for their goggles, you're looking for their gloves or their PPE. You should be looking at heat as well. Heat is something we don't look at. The site that I support, just this year, or maybe last year, some guys worked in the confined space and we thought everything was okay, right? There was no serious heat generation in the work activity, but after a while, they stayed there more than they should stay. And of course, heat exhaustion set in and someone fell after coming out because of heat exhaustion. So there are some certain things that are hidden. You think, oh, there's nothing happening. This place, it's not hot. But when the body begins to move and begins to engage in some mechanical activity, there's some heat that is generated by that exercise, and it could result in heat exhaustion. So there are those things that we don't see that could easily become severe. If that guy that I talked about has fallen in a different environment or hit his head while he fell, that's singular heat exhaustion we could just take, removing him from the workspace, refreshing him with water, warm water to revive him. It could just have led to death because he fell and there's a resultant effect of falling as well, hitting his head. So I'm glad there was a good dump. Thank you very much. We're going to do one more before we go. So I think this picture will be clearer. So this one that you can see, the second picture, just chat what's this guy doing and what are the potential health effects. And if you can also write about if you identify something that is not right with him, you can also profile a solution. 1 minute. Let's go. Somebody has written vibration. Thank you very much. Noise. Yes. The operation is jackhammering. It's either demolishing something, right? Noise, exposure time, dust, body vibration, noise, manual handling, posture issue. Thank you. So, is there anything that he should have on him that he doesn't have in terms of protection? I mean, if you're a safety officer and walk by this guy, can you identify a few PPEs that is not right? So the coverall is not right. Thank you very much. And yeah, so that's in the safety space, but it's okay. Those chips that is breaking can actually cut his leg. No coverall. Tell me something that is health. Anti-vibration gloves, Yes. Tell me more. Health. Health. I want to see people leave the hard hats. Health. Dust extraction. Yes. There's an opportunity for that.
Hearing protection. I'm not sure I can see any form of hearing protection.
Hearing protection. Are you sure? Okay. It looks as if he has an air plug, the one you swing to the back, that has a band. Dermatitis. Okay. Okay. All right. That's fine. No one mentioned what I wanted to hear. Water. Okay. We could wet down to minimize dust. So this is demolition using jackhammer. There could be exposure to silica. And what I was hoping that somebody would pick is his respirator. Is that respirator, is it right? It's very important to understand respiratory protection and be able to understand the right type. That respirator is it looks like an N95. Is that right? You probably should be wearing a double wearing protection as well. If you've ever gone close to a jackhammering operation, this operation will probably give you more than 100 decibels. And at 100 decibels, it should be doubling up. Yes, N95 is not sufficient because of potential exposure to crystalline silica. So it should probably be having a full face with a P100 filter, and that's what you see on the screen. So it's very important as safety professionals that we understand PPE, their limitations, and be able to recommend the right type. I think that's the message with this last few slides, so that we are not just focused on his PPE is not right, his hard hat is not right. What about other exposures in what he's doing? So thank you very much for the engagement. Excellent. So how many more minutes do I have? Time check. If I stop now, I'm good. Or do I still have like a few slides? How many minutes do I have?
Okay, so I'll just give you 5 more minutes. Thank you.
All right, 5 more minutes. I'm sure everyone can have the slides, and if we can continue to engage. Okay, so what you have on the screen, when we did a bit of qualitative exposure assessment, so when an industrial hygienist thinks that he doesn't have enough information based on the qualitative risk assessment, you go to the site and you have equipment that can be deployed. So there's what is described as active sampling, there's what is called passive sampling. The difference is there's some active movement or draw of air in the active sampling, and the passive is just by diffusion. Okay. There are several industrial hygiene equipment. I'm sure you've seen some of this. There's a noise dosimeter, there's sound pressure level meter, heat stress monitor, there's non monitor, there's indoor air quality, there are passive badges. So these equipments are basically used to understand exposure better, to quantify exposure. And it's very important to have a bit of industrial hygiene program. It gives your employees some bit of a moral boost that somebody is looking at them, not only just in the immediate, but their health status in the future. So respiratory protection, I'm going to run through this very fast. We know what respiratory protection are. It's either going to be, there's the one you describe as air purifying, and basically it tries to filter out airborne contaminants from your breathing space. There's one that is called air supplying, which is the one I mean, it just gives you direct air, clean air. It could be in form of SCBA, it could be airlines, and you're probably going to have seen that a lot with guys doing maybe abrasive blasting or some other kind of work that they need supplied air. So I think what I'm trying to get at is a few things, right? Assign respiratory protection factor. There's what is called protection factor for each type of respirator, meaning each type of respirator has the extent to which it can protect you depending on the hazard level or the potential exposure level of that substance. So it talks about, it speaks to the occupational exposure limit of that substance and the extent to which you can use this particular respiratory protection. And I think, let me see if I can give an example. Maybe I'll stay on this slide. An example is this. If, for instance, you have benzene as if you have benzene as having an exposure limit of 0.5, and you go into a space and you measure benzene, actual measurement, and you say the benzene level in that space is 2.5. 2.5 as a benzene, as a measured level of benzene, keep that aside. The maximum protection that a half phase right type of filter for benzene it can give you will be 10 times the exposure limit, meaning 0.5 times 10. So it gives you 5 ppm. So in essence, if you measure 2.5 in that space as a maximum and there is no potential for increase of huge variability, you can say that the guys doing that work, they can stay with half-phase respirator because half-phase respirator offers protection up to 5 ppm, right? But the maximum level that you think can happen in that space based on actual measurement is 2.5. So the assigned protection factor of various respiratory protection type tells you the maximum use concentration. That is, what is the maximum concentration in a space that this respirator can be used for. And I want to speak to what is called IDLH. IDLH means immediately dangerous to life and health. There are some substances that have IDLH. When a substance has an IDLH, you can find that from their safety data sheet or material safety data sheet, as some still call it. If a substance has the IDLH, then the maximum use concentration stops. Idea stops at the IDLH. When the substance has an IDLH, once you hit the IDLH as a potential, you need to either exit the environment or make sure that folks that work in the environment, they use supplied air. What I'm saying in essence is this, and I'll take ammonia as an example. Ammonia has an exposure limit of 25 ppm. And if you look at 25 ppm and look at the assigned protection factor for a full phase, if you multiply a full phase, which is 50 ppm, 50 that has assigned protection factor of 50 by 25, that should give you excess of 1,000. So 1,000 ppm. Ideally, the 1,000 ppm should be able to take care of ammonia. But the IDLH of ammonia is 300. So basically what the chart tells you is that your full phase mass cannot deal with anything. I will not even go more than 250. You need to start thinking of switching to supplied air if you come into that kind of situation. Maybe this is jargon to some people, but we can talk more about this so I can provide clarity. All I'm saying is you need to have an idea of the capability or the strength or the limitation of your PPE to make sure that you're protecting people. It's not just somebody's wearing a respirator, you say, oh, he's wearing a respirator and you walk by. What substance is he trying to protect himself against? Is he wearing a half face or a full face? Is that appropriate for the job? So a lot has to do with it because you think we are providing the right PPE, but people are still getting sick and they still have the potential to lose a bit of their respiratory function in years to come. Also, this is very important. The rating on your respirator, you need to understand NRP. When you say P95, what does that mean? When you say R95, what does that mean? Those nomenclatures, they mean something, right? So when you see N, it means that you can't use it in a place where there's oil. If you see R, it means it cannot probably be reused over multiple times. And P is good for particulate. And if you see the 95, 99, 100 attached to the letter, it tells you the filtering efficiency. So those numbers, they have meanings, and it's very important as safety professionals that we understand them and we're able to point our workers or the management team making the right selection. So if you are buying a respirator, don't just send somebody to Oshodi or to Alaba Market to go and buy a respirator. You need to know exactly the substance that you want to deal with and the appropriate respirator to use. It's very interesting that if you try to just provide for the sake of providing it, you wasted money and you have exposed your worker, because there's no halfway in this kind of thing. You need to just do it well. Okay. For respirators, you can see some of them have colors, and these colors can be matched to the kind of substances that they protect against. It's very important that you follow manufacturer's recommendation when it comes to filters. They need to change them for your respirators. And again, it's very important we should start enhancing the effectiveness of our respirator by making sure that workers wear the right size of respirator, and that you can achieve by fit testing. Fit testing is a concept that not all companies have adopted, but it is indeed very important because people's face, the structure is different. Some people have fat face, some people have thin face, and if the respirator is not providing the right seal, you have leakages, and the guy you're trying to protect, spending some money on decent money on respirators, is not working effectively without giving him the right size. I think I'm gonna stop. So we'll take this health risk assessment as parking lots, or we can engage on it in the near future.
No,
Do I have 2 minutes?
Yeah, you can just continue.
Okay, 2 minutes. So health risk assessment, I know a lot of us on the call have used some tools for risk assessment that has to do with safety. But when you talk about health risk assessment, it becomes a little bit difficult because a lot of the exposures that you deal with in the health space are chronic in nature. It takes a bit for the effect to show up. And this is a recommendation of the International Oil and Gas Producer Association. There's a report that was written, and this is like a general guidance on how to quantify health risk. And the focus is on using the percentage of your OEL, which is exposure limit, as the likelihood. Meaning if exposure to an OEL, meaning exposure limit, is 200%, you are saying that because this guy is exposed consistently or continuously to exposure at the exposure limit, the potential for developing the resultant health effects associated with that exposure, the potential is stronger. If somebody is exposed to just half of the OEL, 50% of the exposure limit, then maybe the potential is lower. The more you go away from the OEL in the lower side, then the better or the less the risk is. Then, of course, some chemicals are stronger than the other in terms of consequence. So the consequence axis is based on the severity of the hazard, So something will just cause irritation. You just sneeze and you leave the place. There are some hazards and some chemicals that will give you just irritation. And some continuous exposure could be carcinogen in nature. You could have respiratory sensitizers and it could be more serious. So the one of the axes is with a consequence and the other axis is with a likelihood. And that likelihood in the health risk matrix is recommended to be a percentage of the OEL. Okay, and so you have a matrix like this, and what this matrix helps you to come to is you want to be able to speak the language of the engineers, speak the language of your management team, because they understand what a low risk mean, they understand what medium or high risk mean, and you can map your exposures especially when you're asking maybe for money for budget to implement a control or to buy certain, even it could be just PPE. Why are we buying this PPE? We're buying this PPE because our current risk, if you continue to use, I'll use a very funny example. If you continue to use N95, it places us on high risk because the consequence of this exposure, it is toxic. It's respiratory sensitizer in nature, and if we're going to use N95, we'll probably be at an exposure that is greater than the exposure limit. But if we begin to use a P100 that is a full face, we're going to reduce our potential exposure to a B, which will be just above 1%. And that has brought us to a medium risk. So if you want to use this kind in the conversation to justify what you want to do in terms of exposure control, and again, like I said earlier, safety professionals, industrial hygienists, your industrial hygienist might be the one leading the conversation in this, but as a safety professional, you are able to support because you understand the concept. So this conversation is to build or strengthen that partnership so that we can collaborate better. All right, I talked about medical surveillance in the earlier slide. It's a means of validating that area controls are working. So questions and comments before we get into that. I would just like to say that I'm partly here, or maybe mainly here, because I'm a member of AIHN. AIHN is the Association of Industrial Hygienists in Nigeria. So you have a small group of industrial hygienists in Nigeria, and we're trying to promote industrial hygiene in the workplace. We have a vision to keep the workplace healthy, and we have a mission to be a primary means of, providing information just like we've done today, and of course engage our employers as well so that we can understand exposure better at work. So we share knowledge and best practices. We provide tools and support. We provide mentorship as well. We're trying to promote a healthy working environment in Nigeria. There are mentorship opportunities. So if anyone on the call today wants to connect with us, we can provide that support so that you can add something a bit stronger to your safety experience and become, have some good industrial hygiene knowledge so you can protect or support your organization better. Thank you very much for your time today. I hope I've not been boring, and I'll take questions now. Thank you.
Wait,
So
sir.
thank you.
Okay. Coming back to you.
Okay, so thank you so much, Mr. Matthew, for that engaging presentation. I'm sure if we continue like this, maybe you just keep on going till till 6 o'clock. But thank you so much for that. I've learned a lot myself.
If you allow me, I have backup slide, though, but you can share the slide with everybody. You can share the slide with everybody, and we can, talk.
Yes, sure, we'll do that. Okay, so some questions have been coming in. Okay, the first question that came in, someone asked, how can I be a member of AIHN? That was the first question that came in.
That can be very easy. I don't know if any of the member of AIHN is on the call. They can probably just post this registration link, or we can send it across to you. You can share with everybody, anybody that wants to be. It's open to, if you want to join, I saw somebody writing, if you want to join from Ghana, yes, you can join us too. We are open.
Okay, yeah. Okay, they're also asking for your contact.
My contact. Yeah, we can share my email address. You want me to type it in?
Okay, you can do that. Okay, so while you're doing that, there's another question from Fatiu. Are there data to show the health conditions of people after they have left hazardous jobs, either through resignation or retirement?
So that's a big question, and that's what we don't have complete data. Even in developed world, not so many people, come to the workplace and say this was where I worked and it was what I was exposed to, and the link between the workspace and the health issues is not strong. More so in Nigeria, right? When I worked with my previous job, I will have doctors come in, occupational health doctors, trying to learn occupational health. And as an industrial hygienist on the site, one of the key message I try to bring to their attention is, if somebody shows up in the clinic that I have headache, don't just think it is Panadol or paracetamol. We need to ask, where do you work? what substances do you work with? It may just be from irritation every day from, just sniffing something at the workplace, not the right respiratory protection. So globally, and I will say globally, the connection between the workspace and the health effect, it's not as strong as it should be. So what can we do? The occupational health physicians need to continue, the education needs to continue in that space. They don't have too many occupational health physicians as well. There are many more treating people. Maybe that's where the money is, in the corrective side and in the preventive side. So we as health professionals, safety professionals in the field, we are the front line. We need to make sure we do everything we can to make sure that the numbers stay down. I think that's a key message of this conversation. Learn about the protection, do it as diligently as you can, as passionately as you can, so that there won't be any need for anybody going to the doctor. The data is not strong, it's not reliable because it's not consistently recorded.
Okay.
I answer
Thank
your
you so
question.
much.
So maybe the answer is there's no data.
Okay.
Or there's
Okay.
data, but it's not strong. There's a lot of underreporting. And if you come to Nigeria, I doubt if you're going to find any real data. But one thing is sure, and I know, and probably you also, you see a lot of people with some unknown illnesses, maybe some cancer, some respiratory issues, and you see some people maybe just a few years after retirement, something happens and you say, this man has gone. Somebody told me that it's an average of 10 years after retirement, people are living. But could that be attributed to exposure at work? Maybe the answer is yes. Or maybe the answer is 50% yes. So there is definitely health hazards at work, there are definitely exposures, and there are definitely the resultant health effect of not so good quality life after work as a result of working in a particular space. And that's what we have been, that's the challenge for us today. That's the charge for us today, that we should step up our game to ensure we can reduce this trend. Thank you.
Okay. That's fine. Thank you so much. Another question from Ubon. He said, where a chemical does not have OEL, how will you determine the control measures?
Yeah, it's a very, very interesting question. And that's one of the questions that industrial hygienists we continue to ask ourselves, right? So besides besides data, besides looking directly at a number, right? There's also what is called professional judgment. So as an industrial hygienist, we have tools in based on training, on what you've seen, understanding the physical properties of substances, um, to determine what and the handling as well. So those kind of substances, it will be close observation of how is this product being used? Is there a lot of agitation? Is it used in a controlled manner? Is it in a controlled? Is it in a closed loop system? What's the vapor pressure of this gas or this substance? What are the potentials that would have to it being available to present that level of exposure before you now determine, okay, I think based on the particle size, I'm going to use this respirator, and if it looks completely hazardous, but you don't have an OEL for it, and somebody needs to go into the space or to go into a place of an unknown concentration, then you're going to be deploying the highest level of exposure control through maybe an SCBA, right? So there are a lot of tools, control banding and the likes, that helps you to put those kind of situation into the right context to develop a control for it. So if you come into that kind of situation in the workspace, I would suggest if you can reach out to any industrial hygienist, understand, you're able to explain what the substance is, review the safety data sheet, break down the work procedure by close observation, you might be able to come to a conclusion on the kind of protection to deploy.
Okay, thank you. Another question from Oyinkachi. He asked, which industry employs industrial hygienists and what exactly is required for us to migrate to that profession?
Well, industrial hygiene is, I was speaking to somebody just this week, said, oh, it was when I saw you that I knew the term industrial hygienist. So it's a field that needs, like I said, it needs help. We need to raise the awareness, let employers, let employees, let people know what industrial hygiene is, right? And that's a bit of what we're doing today. So I lost track of the question. Remind me of the question. I drafted away. I drifted
Okay.
away.
Okay, the question is which industry employs
Okay,
industrial
thank you.
hygienists?
Thank you. So everywhere where there are people, industrial hygienists are required. Remember that chart I showed earlier that shows that anybody that comes to the workplace, that there is some bit of handling of chemicals or whatever, even in the normal office space. Like I know HP, Google, or all the IT, Amazon, all those kind of places I think will not need industrial hygienists. They do, because there are economic issues to deal with. There is a lot of things that has to do with industrial hygiene. I mean, psychosocial stress as well to deal with. Somebody works with Amex. Amex is like what is it, that credit card company in America? They have industrial hygienists. So industrial hygienists are required everywhere. It just depends on the organization understanding and identifying the need for an industrial hygienist. So the industrial hygiene job, there should be, I mean, like I said, there are just 22,000 industrial hygienists globally, and the world actually needs even more than 50,000 industrial hygienists, because anywhere there are people, and industrial hygienists need to be there looking after them.
Okay, thank you. So another question from Samuel. He said he's currently preparing for dry ice blasting in confined space next week. Any tips?
Dry eyes. Where am I CIH on the call? I think there's some bit of potential for exposure to CO. So your normal gas testing of the space has to really continue to make sure that you don't have any unwanted hazards showing up. What I can think of very quickly will be CO levels, ensuring that oxygen level is still is adequate. And if there's anyone that is IH on the call, if you want to chime in at this point, please feel free to. I don't have too much experience in that space, but I know your air quality is very, very important in that space, in addition to all the other safety precautions that you would put in place. So if you have a means of measuring air quality, it's very, very important. And what will you do if there's a drop in the level of, for instance, the oxygen? Are you doing any kind of ventilation in the space? Is ventilation possible? Are you able to introduce air with fans and have the right extraction rate, or have the right air exchange rate? So it's very important to understand what your ventilation requirements are. So I will look very closely at ventilation. So we can connect after now. So if you want me to have a chat more on that, we can.
Hi, Matthew. It's Ify here. Ventilation
Yes.
and CO2. Very important. CO2.
Thanks. So I told you I have backup.
All right. Thank you, Matthew, and that backup. Okay, so the next question from Bright. He said, from the presentation, it means industrial hygiene is an area of specialization, which is very different from just being a safety or environmental officer.
Well, a lot of organizations will say HSC, EHS. That H in the HSC is the industrial hygiene. That's the health part of it. So safety, health, and environmental. If you want to call a safety officer, you want to call an environmental officer, your health officer. Although health has the preventive and the corrective or the reactive side. So on the preventive side of health is where the industrial hygienist sits. In the corrective or the reactive part is where the physicians and the nurses sit. Although the physicians and the nurses as well, they do a bit of preventive as well, and that's where you have your pre-hire medicals and just to make sure they are matching the right people to the right job. But industrial hygienist is your H in HSE.
Okay, Mr. Akim Mustafa also contributed. He said IH focuses more on health and how it is related with safety and environment. I enjoyed this presentation. I look forward to the training and certification.
Excellent.
So another question from Samuel. He says, is there any relationship between exposure time and effects?
Yeah, certainly, right? You measure exposure. You cannot talk about exposure without time. So there are some people that just walk into the plant. Maybe, for instance, your even you as a safety person, you go into the work site to do your safety audit and you leave, right? And maybe you're exposed to noise at 90 decibel, but maybe you are just in that space for 30 minutes and you go to that work site once in a week. But the guy that is there every day, 8 hours, 12 hours, his exposure is definitely different from yours. So it's a question of dose, and dose is a combination of your exposure level and your exposure time. So you cannot remove how high and for how long from the discussion.
Okay, thank you. Okay, another question from Richard. He said, what is the pathway for pursuing a career in IH? Is it true you must be extremely good at mathematics to become an IH?
I'm sure some people on the call they're smiling. You don't have to be extremely good. Mathematics is important. You don't have to be extremely good, but you can work your mathematics level to the level that is sufficient to take care of those aspects of industrial hygiene that has to do with mathematics. And that will probably be just on your path to certification, because some certification to being certified as an industrial hygienist, you will probably do some courses or some exams that you see a lot of maths looking kind of thing in there. But in general, we say industrial hygiene is an art and is a science. So if you very, very good in communication, you're very good in people getting buy-in, you probably will make a better hygienist than somebody that doesn't know how to connect. And that's what I'm big on right now. I'm big on people being able to communicate risk, not people being able to do analytical data, collect sample. Because if you collect sample, if you do analytics, if you draw graph, and you cannot speak to your management in a way they can understand what you are saying so that you can provide the right money to implement the right controls, or you cannot speak passionately to a worker and say, hey, bros, this thing that you are doing, do you know that in X number of years, this is what will happen to your reproductive system, this is what will happen to your hearing. If you cannot get the buy-in of the people you are supporting, then all your mathematics, it's not doing the right thing.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Okay. There's someone raising his hand. Mr. Alfred, can you unmute and speak?
Okay. All right. Thank you for this opportunity. All right. Thank you, Mr. Matthew. Just a quick one. How will you respond to this situation whereby staff members have been exposed to plaster dust for quite a number? They've been working for over 20 years in that department, and during inspection, that was picked up that they have not done anything that's related to lung function test before. And the occupational health are saying that the health and safety aspect needs to be taken care of, which has been done before. But the concern now is what happens if the results come from their lung function tests? How will that be presented to them? Because they've been working for the past 20 years and there was no baseline data to really pick up what has happened before and what is happening that has happened over the last 20 years. If you understand what I mean, sir.
Yeah, I do, and I face it every day, so I know what you're talking about. I'm even dealing with one currently. But remember the slide that says that video that we started with, if you joined early, you say it's all about doing the right thing. Doing the right thing. So ask yourself, if there's an exposure, is it better to stop it now or to leave it for it to continue? If somebody has a respiratory issue right now, is it better to detect it now and do onset of measurement, or just to leave them? So I know businesses are very sensitive all over the world to this kind of situation. There have been exposures over the years, and it could have resulted in some health effects. But because there is no baseline, if it's in some jurisdiction, they might not, it will be very difficult to prove that that exposure is at work, especially for some substances that are, you can encounter it in several places. Lung function can, the defect in lung function can be caused from several other things than just what we just mentioned now. But it's very important to always try as much as possible to have that baseline. But if you come into a situation like the one you're describing now, the key message would be they need to do, if it's been identified that people need to be in a health surveillance program, you may not even call it that you're doing, it may just be like everybody come and do a surveillance, and the results, the management to review and determine with the legal team what to do with it. But not to do is you're not doing the right thing. If you know what I mean, because you want to keep exposing people without finding out the truth about the exposure. I think it's a good thing to do, but I know it's a tough one, and businesses would think nobody wants to be sued, nobody wants to go to any legal action, but there has to be a way to understand that exposure. And I think most importantly, as a safety professional, while all those politics and legal HR thing is going on, let's make sure that the protection is now in place so that we can prevent, ongoing exposure. You can stop the
All right.
exposure.
Okay. Thank you so
Thank you.
much, Mr. Martin. Okay, so I'll just take two more questions. So Sylvester, could you unmute and speak? Then I'll take one more questions from the chat room. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Mine is on membership. I think some months ago, I think a similar program
Okay,
like this.
can we come back on that? We'll get to membership. So this is just about the presentation. So
Okay, all right,
when we
no
get to yeah, you just speak about that. All right.
Okay,
So let's take the okay, someone before the question. So okay, Ife Yinwa, she said a baseline is very important for comparison and prevention from legal action. That's a contribution to that. Okay, so the last question for this section. Talking of certification, how can one get certified as an IH? Can you suggest some courses necessary for certification?
Well, there are courses and there are different kind of pathway. The AIHA, BOHS, the BOHS is the British one and the AIHA is the American one. And the Industrial Hygiene Association in Nigeria, we don't have our own defined certification pathway now. It's one of the things on our next bucket list. This year, we recently got admitted into the International Occupational Hygiene, IOR, International Occupational Hygiene Association. And so we are now a member of that global body looking after occupational hygienists all over the world. And what that gives us is opportunity to advance our influence, advance our ability to do more things. So we're looking forward to a situation where we're going to have our in-country certification process that will be endorsed by the international body that will potentially, of course, be at par with BOHS, AIHA, the South African, the Australian body as well. So, but for now, if somebody wants to become an industrial hygienist and you want support or you want to learn a bit more about industrial hygiene, I don't know if the link to join us has been shared, and it can be shared. You can just come, attend webinars, attend meetings, and all the little things that you will be attending even before you get into a proper study structure would count for certification, because in certification you need to demonstrate some contact hours as well with the subject. So if you join us, of course, you're going to find mentors.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Matthew, and thank you for coming to IOSH West Africa branch to do this wonderful presentation.
I'm a member
If
as
you
well,
want,
right?
what's it? Yes,
I'm a
I
member of
am.
IOSH. I said I'm a member of IOSH.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, I
Okay,
mean,
that's good. I hope your membership is in West Africa branch and not UAE and the likes.
okay, let's talk about that after now. So you can put me in
Okay.
the right branch.
You need to come back home. Okay, so the Q&A section it's over now because if I continue giving, a lot of people just keep on asking and time is not on our side. So Gabriel, over to you for the presentation of the speaker. Thank you.
So I'll stop sharing, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's been a real pleasure for me to be part of. Hello? Can I?
Yeah,
I want to.
continue, sir. Continue, sir.
One last word. So it's been a great pleasure for me to be part of this gathering. Thank you for allowing me into your space. And from the interaction, from the engagement we've had, I think some learning has taken place. Maybe it's on the surface, but we can deepen that or broaden that as we continue to engage. So please, you'll find me on the IOSH platform as well. If anybody has any question, please feel free to drop it in there. Is IH related? There's some IH folks part of that platform as well. We will respond, and if you want to reach out directly as well, you can, of course, pick my name there and some other IH people and engage. We'll provide. This is about building partnership. There are just less than 50 IH professionals in Nigeria, maybe only less than about 15 certified or max 20. So we need safety professionals to partner with us to ensure that we can see the right thing in the workplace, stop the exposures, and keep people healthy and keep families protected and happy. So thank you very much for your time, and I'm sure we'll have more opportunities in the future to talk maybe on a specific IA topic that everyone wants to hear about. Today it was just broad. You might be interested in hearing more about noise. Might be interested in hearing about industrial ventilation. We'll have a lot of IHs that can come to this forum to make those presentations. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, sir. We're grateful. Okay, so I'm sharing my screen currently. Okay, so on behalf of IOS West Africa branch, on behalf of the members, the executive and the members, we appreciate your coming, Mr. Matthew Oda, and to be fair, this is one of the very engaging and interesting topic that we have had in recent time. And virtually everyone, including myself, I jot, and we are looking forward to more robust opportunity to hear, especially on the silent part on the HSC or EHS, the health aspect. So we appreciate your coming, and on behalf of IOSH, so we are giving this token of certificate of appreciation. The PDF copy will be sent to you before Monday. So on behalf of IOS, we say thank you for coming, and we look forward to more engagements, and especially in the coming year, 2024. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very, very much. Truly appreciate this. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Okay, so we're moving on to the networking part of the meeting. I will just give a recap of what happened last time. Just give me a few minutes. Okay, so good afternoon once again. Our last meeting was in September. That's the branch meeting. Interestingly, we have the opportunity to have the IOS president, the immediate president of IOS, but then he was he was still the president. That's Lawrence Webb. We also have our regional coordinator, that's Catherine, was also with us. So it was a very nice opportunity. One of our people in the branch was recognized by IOSH. We have the vice chair, that's Oluwakemi Arubonsue, and immediate past chair of IOS branch. It was division then that Molade was also recognized and awarded IOS Presidential Distinguished Service and Commendation Award, respectively. So that day also we have a presentation from one of the ESCO in the branch on crystalline silica in the construction, impact of respirable crystalline silica in the construction workplace, presented by Gabriel Balatutu. So there are questions, and it's interestingly, it is also have a lot to do with what the speaker of today's Mr. Matthew, because he has to speak more on the health aspects of what we do in the workplaces. The meeting was rounded up with some announcements and questions were asked. And so this is just the summary. Also that day we have, I think, the largest number, 130 people joined the meeting, which is hosted via Zoom. So this is the summary of what happened last time. So I will continue with sharing my sorry, just give me a minute. Okay, so I'll be handing over to Oluwakemi for updates on membership drive. For who want to do transfer, concessionary, and of course, any update on the blueprint. Okay, coming over to you.
Okay. Thank you. Can you hear me, Gabriel?
Yes, you're allowed.
Okay, so thank you once again. Okay, we want to encourage those that their membership is not yet moved to IOSH West Africa to please move their membership to IOSH West Africa by sending an email to csc@iosh.com. csc@iosh.com. Gabriel, can you just help me type that email and put it on the chat box? So Mr. Matthew will be welcoming you to West Africa branch. So
Like for you.
okay, so also the concessionary membership is still on, and we still want everyone to still continue to subscribe to the concessionary membership from IOSH by filling the concessionary form. And also Gabriel, can you mute your microphone?
Sorry.
This is the best situation. It's not the worst case scenario.
Sorry, who is that again? Gabriel, can you mute that person, please?
The worst case scenario. It's just starting. I can't be there when it starts running, actually.
I think that's Cynthia. That's Cynthia.
You understand what I can't be there.
Gabriel, just mute. Gabriel, mute Cynthia.
This is the last one.
Mute her, just mute her. You can mute her.
I'm trying to...
Just click on her name and just mute her. Have you done that?
Yeah.
All right. So like I said, if you are here to move your membership to IOSH West Africa and you're a member of IOSH on this call, we'll be happy to have you in IOSH West Africa branch. So just send an email, csc@iosh.com. So for those that want to renew that. I'm sure everybody got an email from IOSH of the new this thing. So those that still maintain their chartered, of course, you got your new logo from IOSH and all. For those that were associates that IOSH cancelled associate membership, they've moved you now to affiliates. I will encourage you to please try, if maybe you have what it takes to move to technical membership, just send an email of upgrade to IOSH. And because for technical, you should have 2 years full-time experience or 5 years part-time experience, and in health, in safety and health. So take note of that. And once you have the necessary certifications like level 3, IOSH level 3, or IGC, NIBOSH IGC, it's also very important that you should share your updated CV and your certifications to IOSH so that they can move your membership to the required membership level. Okay, for those that want to renew their membership, and you can still use the concessionary discount that is still on. So the concessionary discount applies to those that earn an annual salary of £18,000 if you are in that range. So for those in Ghana, in Nigeria, and other countries that has joined us today, you can do that conversion rates to your currency. I will not be able to give you that different currencies rate now, but you can just always convert that £18,000 annually to what it is in your country currency. Okay, and so you have to fill the concessionary form if you meet that, and the concessionary form applies to those that are unemployed, or if you have been redundant and you have a letter to show, and you have bank statement that you have not been working for the last 3 months, you also send that to IOSH. That's csc@iosh.com. There's another option under the concessionary. If low wages is the 18,000 annual amount that you receive. So if you fall under that level, you click low wages, and you need to have like a letter, like your employment letter stating your salary and a pay slip. So once you have that, please email that to IOSH too. Of course, if you want to pick e-health for the past 12 months minimum period, also email that to IOSH too. And you have the sickness leave or letter, you email that to IOSH. Also, if you have maternity, paternity, adoptive leave, and you have a letter to show on that, also email that to IOSH so that they can give you the concessionary. If you have retired and you're not working, and you have a copy of your pension letter, please to also email that to IOSH, and IOSH will come back to you on these different options, the amount to pay. So I will not be able to tell you what amount for each of these, but once you send that email and you have those evidences to prove your points, they will come back to you on the amounts. Of course, for those that want to renew their membership, that are also struggling to pay with their card, and you need assistance from maybe someone that has an international card to pay, or a dollar card, maybe dollar naira card, or dollar Ghana card, or the likes. You understand? You also email that. You also if you need someone to pay and you don't have that card, you can contact Mr. Dapo or any other person that has that dollar card to help you with your payments. Also, please take note that we actually don't work in the bank, so we are not able to give you what is the exchange rate and all. But bear it in mind that if someone is going to pay for you, the person will be giving you a black market rate. The reason they are giving you a black market rate because you can't walk into the bank and request that, oh, you need XYZ dollar to be paid into your account. They'll still send you to go to the black market. So I will not be able to advise you on what is the exchange rate because that information you can also get it too. So basically that's all from my side. Gabriel, over to you. Thank you. Hello, Gabriel. Can someone hear me? Oh, I don't know that I'm still.
Yeah, it's loud and clear.
Thank you. Yeah, my screen
Okay.
is now I'm back. Okay, thank you. And for all the details, if you have any questions on most of what has been shared, you can actually reach us on West Africa at iosnetwork.com. I will also share the email that if for any inquiries you have, we will reach out to you. Okay, for the branch, the major announcements that reaches us from IOS is that in the next election year, IOS have announced globally that they are not going to conduct any election to all the volunteers, so which also affects the branch and the district. So we'll get across to us all the details necessary, any other information as we enter in the new year. So, but the major thing is that there will be no election for the coming year 2425. So and that's the decision by IOS, and it's they just communicate to all the volunteers, and we need to let all our members also be aware. Okay, so we are moving to
Okay, there's a question on the chat room, Gabriel. Someone is asking, how can I become a member of IOSH? I have a BSc in environmental and safety engineering and 1 year experience in HSE. Where do I start from? Okay, like Gabriel said, send us an email on West Africa and at ioshNetwork.com. We will share the membership form. And of course, also notify us in that email if you will also need the concessionary form, because if you want the concessionary membership, which gives you that discount, you also need to complete that form. So like I said, the annual salary range is £18,000. So if your salary falls within that range annually, just notify us in the email so that we'll be sending you the membership form and the concessionary form. And of course, we're going to just send you the steps of how you become a member, because once you complete those forms, you need to email it directly to IOSH at csc@iosh.com. So they'll come back to you on the amount to pay. So definitely, if they're going to give you a concessionary form, they're going to tell you an amount which it may be different from what I would say I'll tell you now, because every decision comes directly from IOSH on the concessionary. So just send us an email and we'll take it up from there. All right. Gabriel, over to you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ken. So we're in EOB now. If you have any issues that you want us to know about, maybe on that has to do with IOS membership and everything, so let us know. So we'll provide some of the feedback we can do now. The one we cannot go about, we'll also get back to you.
Okay, Sylvester, you wanted to ask us something on membership that time, so I'll give you the opportunity to speak now. If you are still on this call.
Yeah, I'm on the call. I'm an affiliate member, courtesy of your mentorship, and trying to get some of these qualifications to upgrade to our technician. But it seems as if some of these training providers maybe it's not as easy as we thought. Maybe you apply for maybe one thing or the other. It takes time for you to actually get the necessary response. So that's my challenge. Then on the AIHN, I applied courtesy of that Google link, and they gave me membership. So I sent a mail that I need to have a contact, at least maybe a WhatsApp contact, by the time I'm done with my payment and if I have further inquiries. And since then, there was no further communication. They did not reply that mail. So that was why I wanted to talk about it, why the president was on call. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you so much, Sylvester. So, Mr. Matthew, do you want to speak or you? Or see, Mr. Matthew has even sent his email. Why not send him an email directly? You understand? Because
I
because
did not see
this
that
actually
mail.
I.
I did
Okay,
not
he
see
will
any
share
mail.
it again. Okay, Mr. Matthew,
Okay.
if you're still on this call, just reshare your email again. You understand? So that it will deal directly with you. So because right now we're trying to discuss IOSH matters. Okay. All right. So concerning your questions on IOSH membership, yeah, if you are looking to do courses, you just have to still keep contacting the trainer providers that offer those courses in Nigeria. You understand? Because we do not have we don't have any influence on that to get, so it's still you that will have to do that, because once you have those certifications, you'll be able to upgrade your membership. So the membership you called is not technician, it's not IOSH technician, but IOSH technical member. You
Okay.
understand? So, yeah,
All
it's
right,
not
thank you.
technician. Yeah. Okay. So once you have that once you have that, just send an email to CSC to PD the professional development at io.com for upgrade of membership, and copy the membership at io.com email too. So yeah. Thank you. Any further question concerning membership or any further information you want to get from IOSH West Africa branch? This is the time. So we have about 5 minutes for the section, please. Thank you.
Hello.
Okay. Someone is asking. There's a question.
No, do it yourself.
Okay, I've seen the question. So Ubon asks, what evidence of attendance could be used for CPD update? Okay, usually when we have this meeting, we always snap this thing. So if you require that attendance that we always snap, you can just always reach us on our email, or if you have any of our personal contacts, always do that too.
Okay. Also, in addition, the IOS has said one that the email to join the confirmation email to join, you can also use it together with the screenshots, so as evidence. And much more, I think the area of focus more is on the knowledge gain and how is it actually going to be used in practice. So that's the most important. Okay, Isaac, you are raising your hand. I think you can go ahead.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My question on membership is for those who are currently graduate members, just to reconfirm, we are now going to be referred to as certified members, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and are we to expect certificates to confirm now that we are certified members as against graduate members previously?
Okay, so I think
there was an email that was sent to everyone of that
for you to download the soft copy of your certificate.
I also got the email.
Yeah, so you need to check your email.
Okay.
You need to check your email on that, please.
All right, thank you.
And there's a time limit on how soon you can download your certificate from that from the link. So you need to check.
Okay, so if that has expired, just send email to csc@ios.com.
Okay, Gabriel, could you give him the subject of that email so that he's able to check for that email? Maybe he must have missed the email. Or Fatiu.
Because the email was sent to all the from graduate IOS to staff.
I'll check. Let me check. I'm checking right away.
So if Fatiu can get the email, you can also
the subject of the email so that other people that must have missed that email and
okay, so Richard, you are raising your hand. You can go ahead to answer.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm a certified member of IOSH, and I'm trying to work my way to chartered membership. And I realized that the process is very tedious and confusing. I appreciate if one of these days you can organize a webinar where you can, go through the process with those up and coming, trying to be chartered members. That would be greatly appreciated. I remember there was one time you did one on how to navigate the blueprint, the new CPD platform, and it was very helpful. So I appreciate if there could be a webinar or some form of training, and even a mentorship program, of people undergoing this IPD process so that it can be easier, and then we can have more chartered members within the West African division. Yeah.
Okay, that will be fine. Okay, another thing is, could you just do us an email, because we have 3 subcommittees, the membership committee, the career and mentorship committee, and also the CPD committee. So if you can do us that email so that we can speak to the committee that will help you on this. You understand? So just put your queries, or if I don't know if you have my number too, you can just do me a message on WhatsApp too. That'll be fine too.
Okay, thank you very much. If you don't mind putting your number on the chat so that we can contact you, I appreciate that.
Okay, so you will reach out. The email subject for ISIC that I was asking, the subject was your new IOS certified certificate. So ISIC, you can search for this on your email because they will reach out. Now, if you could not get, then send me to csc@ios.com. So
also for those that are chartered member or chartered fellow that must have gotten their signature wherever from IOSH, if the signature that was sent to you was large, IOSH said you should contact them on pds@iosh.com, pds@iosh.com. So try and contact them if maybe your signature did not fit on your email that was sent to you. So they said you should email them. So this is just like a reminder. Thank you.
Okay, so Okoyemi, you're raising your hand.
Good afternoon.
Please go ahead to speak again.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. I guess I wasn't getting the notification. I pretty joined late, so I missed part 1, and part 2 is like a concluding session before I joined. All I could remember was that there is a webinar today, but there was no further notification apart from what was sent yesterday. So please, going forward, just a suggestion, probably a few hours to the webinar, maybe another reminder or a last reminder. Also, what I want to ask is, I just joined IOSH. I've been looking at IOSH from afar for maybe maybe 5-6 years thereabout. But this last quarter of this year, I think I joined as an affiliate. hoping that they will review my documentation for an upgrade. So I want to ask if the part one recording is available, so that I'll be able to probably properly look into it after the live session.
Okay, for the question you asked concerning reminder, I would advise the best bet is to just put like a reminder on your phone, because all the reminders that has been sent to us is directly from the UK. Do you understand? It's not us in Nigeria that sent those reminders. So I would advise you just always put a reminder on your phone. I know there was a reminder yesterday to register, and yeah, so just always put a reminder on your phone, because we will not be able to advise on those so many reminders when they've been a lot of follow-up emails concerning this meeting. So for you not to miss it, just always set a reminder on your phone, and it just gives you an alert. Thank you.
Sorry, what about the recording of this the question?
Okay, so usually when after this meeting, IOSH will upload it. It's going to be uploaded on the West Africa branch on the IOSH platform, so you can always listen to it. If you just go on IOSH website and just check for IOSH West Africa, you can see other recordings there. So this will also be there too.
Okay, so but there may be a little challenge because IOSH is currently upgrading their website. But
okay, yeah,
the
that's
easiest place is the IOSH YouTube page. So once, I think in the next 1 week, once we concluded, our regional manager will upload it to the page. So once it's done, we'll share it on our platform. So for everybody to have access. And it's easiest for you to even go to the IOSH YouTube page, subscribe to them. You have a notification when such is uploaded. And there are so many, either from West Africa or from any other part of IOSH, that we can actually take advantage of. Okay, Patty, you are raising your hand. Please, let's make it fast because our time is fast spent. We have 5
more
minutes
minutes to close this meeting.
Yeah, I want to talk on the observation Opeyemi raised. For every time when you register, once they send you notification, once you open your mail, there's an option for you to add it to your calendar, and you set reminder for yourself. It does it automatically. As for the other question, I think you have answered it, that it is uploaded onto. Okay, you didn't actually mention on the YouTube. If you are subscribed to IOSH page on YouTube, you actually get notifications too when these presentations are actually uploaded. And in the group, I think they share the PDF or the PowerPoint presentation with us. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Fatih. So in 1 minute, David, sorry.
Gabriel, let me just
okay. And so that you round up the two together. David, your question, so that Kemi can answer random.
Okay.
David.
All right. Yeah, all right. Thank you very much. My question is regarding the newly released certified IOSH certificate that was circulated, right? I noticed not just only myself, but a few other of my friends that I was able to get in touch with. The name that actually appeared on the certificate was actually just only our first name and middle name. So our last name, well, IOSH didn't capture that on the certificate. So I don't know if you guys are aware of this, or this is the way. I don't know the rationale, the reason behind why IOSH did it this way, but it's a concern for us. We would prefer if our first name, middle name, and last name, as it appears in any of our identification ID, maybe passports or national identity card. So I don't know if this concern has been raised or is being looked into. Thank you.
Did you send them an email when you noticed that, please?
I haven't.
Okay,
but
so you need to
it's
send
kind of
an email to csc@iosh.com to notify them on that.
all right. Thank you.
Okay, then another thing I want to also say is it's very important for you to always go to your blueprints to update your CPD, because for each year you have minimum of 30 hours, and once you don't, because the email that we got sometime maybe early this year or middle this year, I can't remember the exact time, they said once you don't meet the 30 hours in a year, they might send you back to affiliates, which of course when you have already climbed the ladder to, is it tech, is it certified, is it CMONCH or CFOSH, you understand, you will not want to go back to affiliate. So it's very important that we all go back to our blueprints and make sure we meet the 30 hours. So the 30 hours is just a minimum, so you can upload more than 30 hours, but their minimum is 30 hours. Thank you. Gabriel, any further questions so that we'll close the meeting?
Okay,
Chair, are you available to speak?
I don't think there's any other question. What I just want to add is that as we are closing, immediately we end the call, you will see a short survey. We encourage us to fill it. It will be able to get the feedback, and I always communicate the feedback to us. We use the feedback to improve on our meetings. So we want everyone to help us to fill the feedback. Immediately you end the call, the Zoom will bring up the survey. It's very short.
Okay.
So if you have any further questions, if you have any further questions, maybe it has not been answered, or you can reach us West Africa at iosnetwork.com or any of the branch ESCOs.
Then for those that are asking for the presentation slide, just also send us an email to request that. We'll definitely send it to you. So before we have closing remarks, let's just have a photo shoot now. So it's now time for you to, if you have not put your makeup, put it now. Okay, so please share your videos so that we can take a quick photo now. Gabriel, please, you'll be taking that photo because I'm sure you're on your computer. To be better on a computer than phone. So please just help. Have you taken now? Gabriel, have you taken? Gabriel, you're muted. I don't know that you're speaking.
Sorry. I was trying to say that, just like Emi has said, if you need the screenshot for the for your CPD as evidence of the CPD for this particular one, you can reach out to us either on the email or any of our contacts. We will get the screenshot across to you.
Okay, so have you captured the pictures now?
Yes, I've done that.
All right. Okay, so we have come to the end of today's meeting. We want to appreciate you all for joining us in this meeting. We've had a great and engaging time. Thank you to our presenter, Mr. Matthew Olota, and to everyone that's participated on the chats everywhere. Mr. Akim, Cynthia, thank you for joining us. Thank you for all our leaders. Thank you all for joining. And on behalf of IOSH West Africa branch, we wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year in advance. Take care. Bye.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Hakim, just send us an email. We'll send the this thing. Or if you have any of the ESCO's contact details, you can just message or you'll get it. No certificate is issued for this section. Gabriel, can I end the section?